Back in 2008, we said we're going to put Ukraine and Georgia in NATO, and the Russians got a little upset, as you can imagine they would, and said, no, no, no. And we've been drumming it into their heads ever since that we're going to put Ukraine and Georgia into NATO. And the Russians have said, oh my God, you're not going to do that. We're not going to let you. Daniela, let's suppose Russia had an alliance with Mexico and they started stationing troops in Mexico and missiles and tanks. What do you think we would do? We'd say, oh my gosh, it's so good. Let's drink vodka together. Or they'd send an army down there and run them away, just as they did in Cuba. This never should have happened. We should not have done what we did. The Russians should have somehow made it clear that this would be an act of war, and the war should go on peacefully as it can.
I want to bring up a recent quote of yours, Jim. You say what is happening with the US dollar is the end of the US dollar because an international currency is supposed to be neutral. But in Washington, they are now changing the rules. Now, if in Washington does not like you, they put sanctions on you and you cannot use US dollars.
Yes, it's outrageous. Everybody knows what the world's international currency is supposed to be. Anybody can use it for anything. But now Washington, in the last few years, has started putting sanctions on people. Daniela, it is ruining America, ruining parts of America, because now everybody is frantically looking for something to compete with the dollar. The Chinese, the Russians, the Indians, the Brazilians, the Iranians are all working as fast as they can to come up with something to compete with the US dollar for political reasons, also economic reasons. I mean, America is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, but we're shooting ourselves in the foot every day. This means that now, sooner than it would have been, the US dollar will no longer be the world's medium of exchange in the international currency. That's not good for the US. It certainly was not good for Britain, which used to be the world's international currency. When they lost that status, well, they lost a lot of things. Well, no currency has lasted forever. No number one currency has ever lasted forever. If you go back and look at history, we've had international currencies, or the world's medium of exchange. Maybe they lasted 80 years, 100 years, 150 years max. They've all changed. It's changed over and over and over ever since the beginning of time. The U.S. has been on top for a while, but now, as I said, we are the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. And now we will not let the U.S. dollar stay neutral. Now we're using it as a political or an instrument of war. So that means nobody in his right mind who thinks they might cross the U.S. someday is going to want to use U.S. dollars. No, I don't think I'm ever going to cross the U.S. dollar, the U.S., the State Department, but I worry. Now I got to figure out something else, some other place to keep my money.
Jim, do you think whatever comes next and replaces it will be in the form of a digital dollar in whatever currency?
Well, there's no question that all money is going to be on the computer soon. In China, you can't even take a taxi with money. You can't take a taxi with their money. You can't buy an ice cream with money. You have to have your money on the computer. Every country's working on it, including the U.S., Washington, D.C. So soon, all money is going to be on the computer. But I am sure, Daniela, when the money's here and Washington says, okay, this is money now, I don't think that the bureaucrats in Washington will say, okay, but if you want to use somebody else's money, you want to use those things over there, you can. Bureaucrats don't like to lose control. They don't like to lose power. They don't like to lose monopoly.
Looking at oil prices are nearing 100% gain year over year, and gasoline prices in the U.S. reached over $4 and the highest level since 2008. So I was reading that in recent cycles, when oil gained 100% in a one-year period, including 2008, a recession occurred. The fears of a recession concern you?
Of course, it's been 12 years since we had the last recession in the U.S. That's the longest in American history. So we're overdue just on a time basis. I mean, it could last 20 years. Who says couldn't go on forever, but it never has. So I am sure because of inflation higher, which will drive interest rates higher, we're going to have a recession in the foreseeable future. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just telling them that's the way it's always worked since the beginning of time. So yes, we're going to have a recession, probably fairly soon. You should watch read Stansberry. They'll tell you when the recession's coming. They're smarter than I am. And when the recession comes, a lot of us are going to get hurt. I hope I survive. I hope we all survive, but some people are going to get hurt.
We know the dangers of inflation, how it's brought down democracies. Do you think that the Fed is downplaying the crisis of inflation that we find ourselves in?
The Fed is a crisis, yes. The Fed has rarely been right about anything in the history of the Federal Reserve. What is it, 110 years old almost now? They've rarely been right about anything. They told us that there was no inflation, then they said it was transitory. I don't know, don't pay that much. I don't know what they're saying now. Throughout history, money printing and borrowing and spending huge amounts of money has always led to inflation. We're going to have inflation now. It's going to get worse. It won't go up every day, but it's going to get worse. And that's going to lead to higher interest rates. And it's going to lead to profit erosion in some industries and some companies. And all of us are going to have to pay more for a loaf of bread or whatever we buy.
Just on U.S. equities a second, Jim, when you do see that correction coming, what kind of forecasts are you eyeing for U.S. equities?
Well, there'll be a big collapse. If it works the way I said, we have a big rally, one last big rally. It'll be a blow off, call it what you will. Many stocks will really go through the roof. And then when they start going down, Daniel, I know you've been around a while. Bear markets always hurt a lot of people, especially the stocks that have been the strongest. Go back to any big bear market, and the stocks that were very strong before the bear market go down 70, 80, 90% sometimes, even if the company survives. You know, Amazon, Microsoft, these stocks in the late 90s collapsed.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. The fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.